Now I'm going to show you another artist, Robert Bechtel, who's a good friend and I think a wonderful painter. And he talks about the first time that he used a slide, right, to make this painting on the left, and this is the slide on the right. And I thought at the time that the reason he did that was to make almost like a pop art image, a replication. But he said the reason he did it is he was trying really hard to get the car right in the painting. And he said that when he did it in this sort of moment of desperation, and he did it and he thought it looked great. But he said, I felt very guilty. And so I've been ever since he said that, I've been so fascinated. Why guilty? Why did he feel, as he said at the time, that he felt like he was cheating? And the reason he said was, again, it was so associating with illustration, with bad artists use photographs. A lot of all this came to the fore again with a big Thomas Eakins retrospective several years ago, in which everybody was shocked to find out that this amazing painting, Mending of the Net from 1881, was traced, that Eakins too used photographs and literally traced certain of the figures onto the painting. And the curators were so nervous that people would think that Eakins wasn't a good artist that they say things like this. Eakins' use of photograph in making his painting was a deeply thoughtful undertaking driven by serious work. They wanted to make sure that we realized that it was hard to do this. And that same theme comes up again and again in the discourse around photorealism, that it really is hard work to do this, and it's not easy to copy a slide. But of course, whether or not it's hard to do something or not doesn't make a good painting or not. That's almost beside the point. And I find that so interesting, this fear that people are going to think that Gran Torino painting on the left, which is a fantastic painting, is not a good painting because somehow it's just a copy. Now, the great paradox about all this, the great difficulty, is that the only way that I can convince you, if you're not convinced that Gran Torino is a great painting, is to have you see it in the flesh. Every image that I've shown you, every image that we've seen on the screen here, and very badly reproduced, is some kind of a photograph. All these paintings have been scanned. So we're seeing everything through photography as even we give you this lecture. And that's, again, the problem, because photographs return Bechtel's paintings and photorealist paintings, reproductions of them, turn them back into photographs, and you can't see how beautifully, meticulously painted and how full of light and how different they actually look from photographs. And that's one of the difficulties. But again, it's Hockney who said the best thing he could say about photographs is how useful they are for teaching the history of art and making reproductions. Anyway, I'm going to leave you here with no modesty, but Philip told me that I should do this and just show you some of my work, not necessarily saying which ones I did from, well, I will. A self-portrait like this I did from just looking at myself in a mirror, right? But I do lots of paintings of models and nude models, and they don't like to be photographed because they're afraid that their life and career will be destroyed if they are photographed. They don't like using their name either, or some of them do. Some love being photographed, but that's a whole other story. But when I do these kinds of portraits, many of which are of art historians, like Linda Nochlin, these people are busy and they don't have a lot of time, and so I always have them sit and paint them for a few hours so that they get relaxed, and then I take a photograph. And depending how it goes, I use the photograph to finish the painting. Sometimes if it goes so quickly, I don't. So it's a tool for me. And here, in fact, on our panel is Henry Adams, who I painted really quickly, actually. And he said he loved the way it looked at the time, but I said I needed to fix it and change it. And as I remember, his wife had many different problems with it. And so we went through a process, and if I didn't have the photograph, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Again, I often am painting people like that. Believe it or not, these are surfers in San Diego, and they shower in public. This is a shower outside, and so one's able to photograph them, and I make a lot of paintings doing that. This is the artist, illustrator Maurice Sendak, who was an old friend, and he hated modeling. He said he would pose, and then either he'd fall asleep or he had to work on something else. And this, I was able to, paint him while he was drawing. But again, I used photography, and he objected to looking so fat in the painting, so I thinned him down, I think, but probably not sufficiently. And then I did a painting, I love this work, of a dentist, a really great dentist in New York who I very much admired. This is his son and his wife, by the way. They're operating, and I began with sketching them and then finished it. And at the time, I was working on photorealism, so I actually projected the image onto the screen to see how difficult it is. And it is hard. And it doesn't, and different artists will come out with different results. Here it is, finished, the painting left finished. And you can see how different I think it is from the photograph. Finally there. And here, to end here, is a painting that I did of Philip and his wife, Yael, is a wonderful woman. And it was a somewhat anxious process, but we got through it, and they're very happy with the work. And actually, it was I really was a fantastic experience to paint them. They're an incredibly beautiful home. And you can see that I begin sort of photoshopping the picture. I wanted to get Philip's great book on Paul Cadenas into the picture, and it wasn't in the right place. And the bottles, there was a bottle that was in the wrong place, and I moved it, and I did all this stuff to change it, and then worked it up through that. So and then I also started by painting them in their house. So it was an interesting process. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.